God damn it. Slightly bent a little bit. Oi oi, it's your boy from the beginning here. What's up? So I guess I'd say that my channel has changed slightly. I've been doing videos about politics, and I briefly now and then mention veganism, I suppose, but because I think it's fundamental in terms of like environment and improving the world and our health is improving as a species in general. But I want to talk about today about something that I found, and it kind of really annoyed me. Kind of gave me an idea to make a video about this. So there was a TikTok post on YouTube of this monkey explanation of communism. It's like a popular trend of these kids doing explanations, and it first shows in it a video of some sort of left, those radical left people that with piercings girl. She's talking about how does an ideology kill people? Like, if communism is an ideology, how does it kill people? And then it turns to some kid, monkey explanation, banana, this and that, like a stupid. And I was just thinking, like, kids these days, and not just kids in general, like if you look at the left and the right-wing groups in America and UK and just in general, most people, first of all, they haven't read any books of Marx. They haven't read Das Kapital. They haven't read the Communist Manifesto. Although, Communist Manifesto is pretty easy to read for most plebs and, just basic average working people. Whereas Das Kapital is a bit more technical and it's quite hard to read. But most people don't actually know what communism is, don't know what it actually would look like, and it's never been achieved, because in order for communism to succeed, it has to be the whole world has to turn communism. But and it was just the fact that communism, people are really against communism, especially in America. They're like, communists, they're all evil, and it's killed so many people. It's killed millions of people. But it's quite funny, because I'm not a communist myself. What I do believe is we should have capitalism and democracy, but we should have socialist policies. And the kind of capitalism that I'm against is unfettered capitalism, where there's no regulations, where corporations and the rich, the 1%, don't pay any taxes, or barely any taxes, and the middle class and the lower class pay most of the taxes. Where capitalism societies exploit people. They treat everything as a commodity. They treat the environment, the people, the animals as commodities, and exploit them until there's collapse, until exhaustion, until those resources are completely depleted. So that's the problem I have with. That's the kind of capitalism that I don't want to see, which is happening around the world, in America and around the globe. And even countries like China, they might say that they're communist because the government intervenes in businesses and stuff, but that's what American government does as well. They intervene, they bail out banks. They say they want regulations, but as soon as banks fail, they come in and rescue them and buy their failed securities and buy their investments and buy their terrible stocks. That's what happened in the financial crisis. The bank came into these banks and, we'll just take these assets that are completely shit, and we'll take them and we'll replace them, and we'll take them. We'll give you the money. It's a crazy system, but let's keep it on track. The fact that to say that only communism has killed people is really quite an understatement, because capitalism has been killing people for 200 years, for centuries. Has been killing people, starting with slavery. The slave trade was a capitalist endeavor, and all the poverty it's caused now, all this violent history that these capitalistic societies have caused. People are born into poor countries now suffering. So let's have a look. Let's start with after the war ended, the Cold War started. And what did America do? It started doing proxy wars. South America, killing millions of people. African countries, they've been doing all sorts of things. All these genocides are all because of capitalism, basically. Intervention. It's all about exploiting money and greed. And, nobody talks about the fact that capitalism and these systems, these social institutions they impose on these poor countries, they put them into debt. They put them into poverty. They buy vital, very important resources to produce goods from slave labor, so they exploit people. But let's look how many people, just the fact that from poverty alone, from hunger, which was originally caused by capitalism in the first place in these poor countries. 2 million people, 2 million children, no, I think like 3 million children yearly die from starvation and hunger. And that's because all these affluent nations, they impose the social order on these countries and put them further into poverty and more. And they say, oh, but capitalism, it's the best system because it brought up so many millions of people out of poverty. Yeah, that's because of China. It's not. that's when they include China, and even though China is technically some sort of hybrid between communism and capitalism, it's really hard to even understand what China is, because they use businesses and then they work with other countries and they produce everything. Most things come from China or anywhere for the past, several decades. And they've been building and they've been manipulating stock and they've been manipulating the numbers and the figures and whatnot. But to say that, when they say, oh, most because of thanks to capitalism, so many people go out of poverty. No, it's because of China. That's including China and not other countries. And in fact, poverty and inequality have been, going up and up and up. Unemployment has been going up. Take away the pandemic. Let's say the pandemic didn't happen. Unemployment was still going down. Not at such a big rate as this. But what I'm talking about, is the fact that these idiots in America, fearmongers and scaremongers, say communism is evil, and I don't necessarily want communism. I don't think it's just not going to work. I mean, I think the idea was that the workers would own the means of production and they would decide. So let's just roughly what it says, the balance here. In a true communist economy, the community makes the decisions, which to me sounds more like democracy there, to be honest. I think what we should do instead of these in companies, and I was watching this lecture by Richard D. Wolff. He's like an economist in an incredible lecture. Go on YouTube and check his videos out. He doesn't get enough exposure whatsoever. But he talks about the fact that, these 10, 15 people at the top of these corporations, they make decisions that are not good for the workers, that only benefit them, the shareholders, and give them money, but the workers get nothing. So instead of that, why don't we have democratic processes like we do in our societies, in our politics? Why can't we bring that kind of process into a company where workers decide what happens, how much they get paid, what kind of products they produce, and stuff like that, decision that will impact them the most. So in a communist economy, in a true communist economy, apparently that's what it says here, the community makes the decisions. And in most communist countries, the government makes that's the case. The thing is, what Marx had in mind was never implemented, and I don't think it will be implemented until people strike or revolt or whatever, or have some sort of civil disobedience, because things are not improving. In general, just the middle class, working people, lower class people. And the thing is, what these elites do, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but I hope you will find this information useful. The fact that, it doesn't matter if you're left on the right, they're there to divide us, just normal average people, regardless of color and race, And then a lot of these right-wing people, even the left wing, they look for a solution to their problems. I'm unemployed, there's problems in the country, and they look for a demagogue, some leader like Trump. Our chosen leader is gonna save us. Trump or any other of these leaders, they're not gonna save you. They don't care. And in fact, if there are leaders who actually want to make real change, they'll never get elected, because these corporations, these parties will never allow you to be in power. It just feels like the government, all is there to do now in most Western countries, or in the whole world really, and the majority of the countries in the world are there to do the bidding of corporations. They're not there to serve the people. And I read this really interesting article. I'm going to link it down below, in an article website called Politico, how basically Britain is becoming Americanized. Essentially, it's about donors who give money to these party leaders, and they represent their interests now. They work on behalf of these donors and these corporate interests, and it's unfortunate. We say we live in a representative democracy, but our elected officials don't actually represent our interests whatsoever. They represent the interests of the few, of the 1% or the whatever, the super rich and wealthy. So it's democracy only in name. We actually don't live in a democracy. per se. We don't actually, especially in America, that's I wouldn't even call that democracy. I would call that like corporate feudalism, really. It's not capitalism, corporatism, you know, because like in a real communist, in a real capitalist society, the governments wouldn't bail out banks. They wouldn't intervene, you know. But corporations and governments work together all the time, you know. And like all these big corporations, Amazon, Microsoft, they've been killing off competition, you know. And a lot of companies even get subsidies, so they have an unfair advantage over, you know, new businesses and potential ventures. And so to say that we live in a truly capitalist society is also false. So it's more like a corporate fascism where it's all about the money, it's all about exploitation, completely unregulated capitalism. And that's the problem I have with, you know, I don't have a problem with people going out and free trading and creating businesses and having private property, and they have a right to do that, you know, if you work hard and you find a niche and whatever, and you capitalize on that and execute it well. I do have a problem with corporations exploiting the environment, us, the people, the animals, and completely destroying our environment. It's all about short-term gains for them. It's not about long-term, you know? Basically, stifling free speech. There is no free speech, you know? And it's not just the left, it's also the right. They don't. The right claims to care about the free speech, but they don't. As soon as you criticize them, or as soon as you show problems in their ways, that they start, oh, you know, free speech? What a joke. I mean, there's no free speech. Even left-wing corporations like YouTube always shut down, you know, even left-wing thinkers always think, oh, that's a bit too extreme, you know. So it just feels like in America, especially, like, it doesn't matter who you vote for, Trump or Biden or Barack Obama, they're all just puppets of these neoliberal corporations, you know, these corporations. Sure, Trump is a terrible person, but if you look at, if it doesn't matter what these leaders say, like Biden, I'm going to do this and that, because you have to look at their past actions and what they have done and what kind of policies they supported. You know, because a lot of these, it's like, oh my God, I watched a clip of like Biden after he got elected, and this woman's asking, oh, you're going to have to forgive that, and you promised, you know, $2,000 stimulus checks. It's like, I'm not going to give you that. And she's like in shock. Oh my God, a politician lied to you to get elected. Like, that's never been seen before. You know what I mean? Most of these politicians who are going to get elected, they'll say anything to get elected, you know? So we can't trust them. So I don't know. It's looking quite bleak in general. I mean, it's first world problems, but the thing is, because of globalization, it's going to affect the poor as well. You know, things are going to get worse, not just for the poor, but for all of us. If we continue to allow these corporations to exploit everyone and everything for short-term gains, exploit the environment, the animals, us, exploit our health, destroy us completely. Basically, you know, people who work, you know, in factories and sales and service industries, basically slaves, essentially. You know, the difference between normal slavery, I was reading something about Noam Chomsky said, the difference between slavery and what we have now is that we can get out of this someday, where slaves couldn't. So, I don't know, it's looking pretty bleak, but I hope people wake up. It's so hard to get to people, because like if I talk about my area where I live in Dorset, it's a Tory government, but I mean Labour's having issues at the moment as well, because they're silencing, you know, people and free speech and stuff. But I just want to talk about my county in here where I live. It's like I work in a shop and I see what newspapers they buy. People, you know, older people and middle class people, and they just buy crap. They buy the Sun, the Daily Mail, and all these newspapers are owned by two people. You know, and all these people, like the stuff they promote is just to benefit them. You know, they don't. In fact, in UK, there is a law that says that newspapers and tabloids don't have to give a balanced representation of an issue. So, and these people just eat it up, you know. A lot of people become disfranchised with politics and the government, and they just feel upset and just just fed up. But it's time to wake up, and I don't know how to get across. My channel is very small, and most people probably come here for something else. But I don't know. Share the video, and it's quite a long video, but I just feel like I'm kind of frustrated and just where things are going in the world, and I don't want to see things get worse, but they will. Things will get worse until they get better. I don't know. I feel like there's something coming in the next 10 to 15 years. I mean, and it's weird. Like, if talk about like local, like UK issues, everyone is hating on Boris. Like everyone, so many people, even the people who voted for him and just normal conservatives, just are hating him. But still, if you look at the polls, the numbers of Conservative Party are just rising. So I don't know, maybe it's because of the vaccine rollout or something, because they vaccinated a lot of people. But in general, like, so much corruption's going on with Boris. Like, I've read some crazy stuff about how, like, a lot of, like, Russian donors have been paying him money to have, like, dinners and private conversations with him and play tennis, and, like, the whole Brexit thing was just completely, like, a joke. The whole Brexit referendum, I watched the Brexit film yesterday, and I read about the aggregate IQ and Cambridge Analytica. Basically, this American donor came in to Nigel Farage and Cummings, because there was two Leave campaigns. There was Leave and there was Be Leave or something like that. There was two basically campaigns for the Leave campaign, and the amount of money they spent was crazy, and just lying to people and targeting with these ads, and it was crazy. This American donor, who's a best friend with Trump, essentially made Britain leave EU. And I think one of the reasons they wanted to, I think America and Western, private billionaires wanted UK to leave EU, is because they wanted to privatize everything in UK. The NHS, come in and just buy England, UK. They wanted to buy it, influence it for their benefits. And the reason why is because, because EU, I think, maybe this is just a speculation, but I think EU had a lot of like regulations, on corporations in America, so they couldn't just come in and exploit and not pay any corporate tax whatsoever, and they couldn't just privatize Europe's National Health Service. So I think they wanted UK to leave EU, American billionaires and wealthy people, to influence it and start Americanizing it, basically. America 2.0. So yeah, that's my sort of view on it. But this video, I didn't even know what to title it because it's very confusing. But I think the goal of the video is that unfettered capitalism can't go on. And I'm not a communist or anything like that, even though I commented in the video and some commies, it's like the red communists, they're gonna get you, No, I believe in democracy, free speech, and I believe in government actually representing the people who elected them, not corporations. But that's the world we live in at the moment. Unfettered capitalism, do what you want, So yeah, thanks for watching, I guess. I don't even know what I'm going to title this video, but something about communism, capitalism, or something like that. But I didn't think it should be an option between capitalism and communism. I think it should be an option between improving our capitalist system and implement systems and, taxing corporations, taxing the wealthy, and creating jobs, stuff like that, just restructuring the whole corporations, bringing democratic processes into workplaces where people can choose to vote on things. So it doesn't have to be a choice between those two. Just because you implement social programs like a lot of Scandinavian countries do, and the quality of land, the standard and quality of living is really high in those countries, and they still have capitalism and democracy. It's just it's regulated, and there are socialist policies, like healthcare and good education and etc., good roads and stuff. Those countries are doing pretty well. So I don't know what we. Yeah. So It doesn't have to be a choice between communism and capitalism. We could just improve our current system, and it's not working, and it hasn't worked for the past. There's been a lot of problems since like the 70s, since 73 started. Thatcher and Reagan came in and they brought these new policies, these neoliberal policies of just unfettered, unrestricted capitalism, and look what good it's done. How many wars have we had? How many people have been unemployed? How many people lost their jobs? And just, it's crazy. Anyway, thanks for watching, and sorry for the long video. Appreciate watching. Subscribe, comment and like, and check out the article and the link down below. Alright, peace out.